What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, back with another Reaper format video. I'm really enjoying my time in this format so far, which was held in SJC Long Beach in March 2006, using the October 2005 ban list, and going up to Shadow of Infinity for the card pool. I think there's a lot of very interesting things that you can do in this format, because the ban list came in and banned a bunch of powerful cards from GOAT, like Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, Delinquent Duo, etc. And so it let more interesting decks sort of rise up and take control of the metagame. And one of the most powerful decks in the metagame is Rescue Cat OTK. Now, there are a couple different OTK decks in Reaper format. I mean, the existence of Cyber Stein with the Cyber fusions like Cyber End Dragon, Cyber Twin Dragon does enable that pretty well. But I think Rescue Cat OTK is pretty nice because it really does not need to rely on Stein to go for its big pushes. So that means that you can take a fair amount of damage and still actually push through your OTK even after your opponent's dropped you below that 5,000 life point threshold. There are a couple different lines to do this. The common one is doing a Rescue Cat and a Last Will to bring out like some Death Wombats and some Mindless Radiance, which should be 8,000 damage base. If your opponent has a defense precision monster, you can bring out the Yakugari Panda instead of the Death Wombats, and that should be able to do it. You've also got Big March of the Animals, which basically the quick play spell that buffs up all your beast monsters for every beast monster you control. So if you control a bunch of them, it can enable you to buff up your pandas and other things to high heights and get in for a lot more damage than you would otherwise. And this version of the deck is also played United We Stand. This version of the deck was played by Gia76 in a previous Reaper tournament. There are a lot of Reaper tournaments to go by, so if you're looking for a good deck to start with, you can sort of peruse through those. There are multiple different builds of Rescue Cat OTK. I saw some playing things like Giant Rat and things like that. I kind of like this because I feel like Rat is oftentimes unnecessary, because you're just trying to push for major damage, and you can sort of stall out your opponent as you do that. You're playing Double Threatening Roar here, which is very good against other OTK decks, but just good at stalling in general. You've also got these level limit area Bs to lock down your opponent for a bit, and also switch your monsters to defense mode for the Yakugari Panda to hit over. So this deck can generally take its time getting to the stuff, and if your opponent's attacking over things like Rat, then, you know, you might not be in the best position. So I feel like it's fine, honestly, not including the Rat package. And so I picked this list to see how it performed. Maybe you should include the Rat package. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. But before we dive into the games, let's just go quickly through the card by card. Firstly, we got Cyberjar. This card is actually really good at enabling your combos. If you manage to flip it up and use Last Will, you're generally winning the game on the spot. So very, very good stuff there. It also is very good at getting rid of your opponent's stuff and wiping away their board. That's kind of nice too. You got a Cyberstein. This can be gone into off of a Last Will, so it's good just to have in the deck as another option here. And occasionally if you hard draw it, you can sort of maneuver your plays, just bring it out and win the game that way. We got Double Death Wombat. This is good for being a high attack monster that you can bring it off Rescue Cat, but also does he sort of play against burn decks. So if you are up against a burn deck, that can be pretty nice. Get Exiled Force here. This can trigger your Last Will, and also just good at popping your opponent's stuff. We've got a triple Yakugari Panda here. This is a really, really good card in this deck, getting over your opponent's stuff, dealing piercing damage, and also just buffing itself up based on the number of cards they have. We've got Injection Fairy Lily here, another great pick off of the Last Wills. We've got Triple Mindless Radiant because you kind of need that to enable your combo. We got a Morphing Jar here to draw into the combo pieces more, and we got Triple Rescue Cat because you really do want to be drawing this card for your Last Will combo. And lastly, we got a Sangan. This can search out pretty much any card in our deck except for like the Death Wombats, and so that is very, very good. For the spells, we get Confiscation, Dark Hole. You know, these are just powerful cards that are, for some reason, back in the format, but they are very, very good. And also, you can use things like Dark Hole to trigger your Last Wills, and Confi to insulate your OTK pushes. So, these are very, very good and should see play in this deck. We've got Triple Giant Trinade plus a Heavy Storm here. These are very good at both getting rid of your opponent's ways to stop your combo, but also at being able to shut down your own floodgates if you really want to. This deck can generally OTK through floodgates, but if you're trying to go for a Stein play instead of just multiple pandas and wombats, then you do want to get rid of the level limit area B. So this can be good at clearing that from your board as well. Triple Last Will because this is the heart and soul of the deck. Double level limit area B to stall down the game a bit. We got a Pot of Avarice here because oftentimes through your cat combos you get a lot of monsters in grave, so this can be good to shuffle them back in the deck, draw two. You can also get, you know, things like Radiant, which are combo pieces once you go for the cats and are necessary to close out the game. You can get those back in the deck if you've gone through them already. So Pot is a very, very good card in this deck, but you really only want to play one of it because the game probably won't be going long enough to fire multiple copies of this. We get a Premature Burial to bring back our cards. If we go Rescue Cat and then Premap back Rescue Cat, that's another alternate line to lethal most of the time. We get Triple Reload here to reset our deck and like draw deeper into our combo pieces here. This can also be good if you draw into multiple Radiants or things that you really want to bring out off Cat. You can reload them back. I'm not necessarily sure why this deck's playing reload instead of Magical Mallet. I think Magical Mallet is generally better, but maybe there are weird cases where you want to several things back on your opponent's turn or in response to something like a Mind Crush. So there are sort of applications for that there. But, I think Magical Mallet would probably be better in more cases, but, who knows? And we'll see how these do. They definitely are something that not every deck of this sort is playing, but they can allow you to sort of fix your hand a bit more and try and get into your combo plays more quickly. We got Swords of Withering Light also to slow down the game. We got double Big March of the Animals, as I mentioned. This can be used to sort of get alternate lines to your OTK. United We Stand for similar reasons as the Big March of Animals there. We've got a Reckless Greed to draw deeper in our deck for the combo, and double Threatening Roar, as I mentioned earlier. For the side deck, I'm not really sure why all of this is here, but it all seems pretty good to me. We've got a Gravity Bind if we want to slow the game down further. We got Triple Decree. This can be good to bring in if our opponent has like Threatening Roars and things. This can shut that down. We got double Compulse. I assume for other like Stein OTK decks that can send back their fusion monsters. We got a Snatch Shield to take our opponent's stuff. We got a Knock against more flip focus strategies. We got double Minecon again against more flip focus strategies. We got a Mass Driver here against Burn. This can tribute off the Ojama tokens. We've got a Book of Moon to set down our opponent's stuff. We've got double Gigantes here to get more aggressive, and we got another Stein if we want to go deeper into the Stein side of things. For the fusion deck, it's sort of just a hodgepodge toolbox of fusion monsters here. Since we don't have the Metamorphosis package, I didn't put in Dragoness and Darkfire Dragon because you don't really need those level 3 or 4 targets. I mean, you could put in Dragoness in case you want to get through like level limit, so that's good to know about at least for Dragoness, but I just put in sort of like the standard toolbox stuff besides that. We've got Blue Eyes for just big attack. Cyberblader, I mean, its third effect could potentially come up. Realistically, you're never going into this over the other stuff, but there are weird edge cases where it can apply. You've got the Cyber End Dragon for, getting through tokens. You've got a Cyber Twin Dragon for attacking twice. We've got Dark Ball the Terrible for effect negation and spell negation. We've got a Darkblade the Dragon Knight to banish cards from grave. We got a Fiend Skull Dragon to negate targeting traps and flip effects. We've got a Gatling Dragon to pop the field. We've got a King Dragoon against targeting. We've got a Master of Oz here. I mean, you probably don't need Master of Oz and a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, but in this deck, Master of Oz can come up because you are playing the Radiant, so occasionally Oz will be bigger than the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. We got an Ojama King to lock down zones. We got a Reaper to attack in directly, rip a card out of hand potentially. We've got a Ryu Sentry here to stop normal traps and also spells that target it. We've got a Last Word from the Planet to stop summons and a 1,000 Strike to suck up our opponent's stuff. This card can also attack under the level of Area B, so that's kind of nice in case where you can't clear this. You can potentially assemble big damage push even through that. And that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. There's some other fusion cards here that you probably should know about, but we play with an unlimited fusion deck here, so you can sort of proxy in whichever one you might need. But I think this deck is really cool, and let's dive into some games and see how it actually plays. Okay, we got our first game here against Dump Truck, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to dive into the rock, paper, scissors, and we do indeed win, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And let's see what we draw here. We draw Panda, Reload, Will, Reload, and Sangan. Okay, I feel really good about this, so I'm just going to set the Sangan, set the Reload pass. Reload just really a bluff here. I don't care if I lose it, and I think it's fine just to have on field, so that way, if we do want to do a double Reload play next turn, we can. But the plan here is just to go for a Sangan search, get Will to hand, or not Will to hand, but Cat to hand, which then can trigger Will, and go for plays there. And so we should probably be able to set up lethal unless they have a ton of back row here, but we got Reload potentially dig deeper to get around that back row. But I feel like this should be fine. I set the Sangan. Maybe I should have summoned it just to play around Knock, but I think it's more likely that they'll have like Sidra plus Zaborg than Knock because Knock is limited in this format. So I'm not like too concerned with Knock. I'd rather just set the Sangan and go from there. Unfortunately for us, they've got Sidra and they do indeed have the Knock. So Knock will banish the Sangan. And now we don't have that searching, and that is going to be quite unfortunate for us. They're going to attack in for 21, just pass back to us. We draw another Panda. Unfortunately, that's not really useful here. And I do make what I think is probably a little bit of an error. I set the Will, which I think is fine. But instead of using the Reload in hand, I go for the Reload on field. The reason why I do this is because basically I figure, okay, I don't want to like commit into doing double Reload this turn. And if I do this one Reload and I draw what I need, I'm one card down. Whereas like maybe I should have... I don't know. I think basically the reason why I should do the Reload in hand and then the Reload on field is because this potentially draws me deeper into the deck. Sure, there's only 3 cards going back off this Reload in hand. But, then if I activate this Reload in hand as well, that's basically seeing 6 cards from my deck. Whereas if I just go for the Reload on field, that's seeing 4 cards from my deck. So it's more likely to draw into something like, an Exiled Force or a Rescue Cat or something that can trigger Last Will if I go for the Reload in hand, then the Reload on field. It does go like pretty minus here, but I think it's still worth doing because this deck sort of has to operate on a different axis than a lot of other decks. You don't really care about, preserving your card advantage too much if you can see a line to potential lethal. And so I think I really should have gone for the reload in hand, then the reload on field. And unfortunately, we shuffle this in. We draw 4. We do not draw what we need. So, who's to say if I had gone for the reload in hand and then the reload on field, whether I would have drawn what I needed, but it would have been more likely than the play that I did there. So we're going to go for a coffee, rip the last card out of hand, or not the last card out of hand, but we're going to rip a card out of hand. We're going to rip the Sork, leaving them with a pre-mat, a call, and a heavy. I don't really care if they heavy this will because we had another will in hand. Call is kind of annoying, but they don't really have any monsters in graveyard to do with that. Same with pre-mat. So I think that the Sork is the best play now. So we are just going to leave them with that, and then we're just going to pass back to them. I figure I can afford taking a few more hits off that Cyber Dragon, and I don't know. If I draw another reload, I want to shuffle back the Radiant, but it is kind of awkward. Maybe I should just set the Radiant as a chump blocker, but I think it's fine just taking this. We'll take another 21, pass back to them. We draw level limit, so that's really good. We can set the Radiant, go for level limit. Unfortunately, they do have Heavy Storm, so that's going to be kind of rough for us, but we do have this chump blocker in the form of the Radiant. They do go for the heavy there. And now they're going to attack over the Radiant. So they're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw Dark Hole. I was punished for setting the Radiant because what we could have done here is we could have gone set Radiant, Dark Hold, last willed out something. It would have been ideal because they do have the call set. So then they can just call back the Cyber Dragon next turn. But it would have been something at least. I mean, we got Dark Hole here either way. So we're just going to set that. Set the big March of Animals. They're going to bring back the Sidra there. And then they're just going to, or we're going to pass back to them. They attack in for 21 here. We take that 21, and then they're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw a Yakugiri Panda here. I mean, this isn't ideal. Even with the March of Animals, this just goes up to 2,000, not 2,100. So it can't even crash with the Sidra. I could go for Will here, crash the Panda into the Sidra, bring out like Exiled Force, maybe hit over the set, and then, tribute the Exiled Force to pop the Sidra, but they got pre-map for that anyways. So it's just awkward, but I think I just have to go hit into the set, hope it's something that does something here, but unfortunately it's just a merchant. They get an enemy controller, so that they actually have another line that guarantees lethal here by enemy controlling our Panda and then attacking with that, but they might see that, I might have a Gravity Bind or something like that, and so they want to just go for this play. This is also lethal. Unfortunately, it doesn't kill us here because we got the March, so that will let us survive with 100 life points. I don't really think there are many ways to get out of this. I mean, I do have Will. If I get into a Cat, I can go for Cat and then do plays there. So there might be ways to come back from this, depending on what I draw. Econ does complicate things, though. Cyberjar, honestly, not bad. Cyberjar can potentially let us do things here. They're going to bring out a Breaker. They're going to pop our Will, so that will go through, unfortunately. And now they're going to attack into the Cyberjar. That will pop the entire field here. And we hit a Wombat, a Radiant, and nothing else, really. And they're going to hit a Reaper and a Tomato. Now, it's a little bit awkward, but what I ultimately decide to do here is I like to set the Radiant and the Wombat, because if they do Econ, like take our Wombat or something after hitting over our Radiant, then we lose the game from that. And they probably are going to have the Tomato and attack either way here. So I feel like in order to dodge around that, I have to just set both. And it's unfortunate because they can kind of clear both if they get lucky with the Reaper hit, if they choose to go for that. Well, they're just going to set the Reaper there. And I mean, that's fine. But either way, we got to do this to survive because, again, we know about the Econ. So we can't let them Econ take our Wombat and attack in for game. And if we leave the Radiant and attack, then we just lose from the Tomato attacking into that. So it is what we have to do to survive here. We mix up the Radiant and the Wombat there, hoping to sort of obscure which is which. They'll attack over the Radiant, and now they'll just set 1 pass back to us. We draw a Panda here, which is honestly not terrible. We're going to go for this Heavy Storm here. Go for a reload. We could have also just brought out Panda, hit over the Reaper, but we know about a Sidra in hand from that Cyberjar. I believe we do, at least. Yeah, we knew about the Sidra in hand from the Cyberjar. So that would just be lethal damage because then they just attack into the Panda with the Cyberjar. And also, I mean, it is a bit risky because we don't have any defense from that too. So we draw into True Nade plus March. That's not really going to be good enough. We could like flip up the Wombat, but again, they know about the, or we know about the Cyber Dragon, so it's not ideal, but maybe I should have done that. I don't know, because they have lethal here either way. They just attack into our set with the Tomato, then attack directly with the Reaper. So yeah, it's just going to be the end of the game. So not much we could have done there after the Sangan was banished. Again, if I'd done the reload play differently, maybe things would have worked out better. Maybe if I just summoned out the Sangan attack and said, I'll take damage from this, but I need the Sangan to go through. So this is the right thing to do. Maybe if I'd done that, things would have turned out differently, but unfortunately, it did not quite turn out that way. This is a really good hand. This is a superb hand. Oh my goodness, this hand is so good. We're going to set the jar, pass back to them. We could have honestly just passed with this, but I don't want them to just like summon out Reaper, rip out like the Rescue Cat, and then we don't have our combo online. So I'd rather just set the jar. If they get aggressive here, you know, we can do stuff with it. If they just set like this, then we can also just flip up the jar on our turn and go for a will play there. So yeah, we're just going to flip the jar, you know, pop the entire field, and they get no monster to defend themselves here. So we are really doing well here. We hit a Radiant, we hit a Lily, we hit some more cards here as well. We hit Unite, we Stand to just buff things up even more. If we didn't need that, then, you know, we have Reload as well to do things. But we got Cat plus Wills. We could even will out a Cat from the deck just to, you know, get things started that way, because a monster has been sent from our field to graveyard already. I think that is what we ultimately decide to do. Nope, we just go for the Cat here. I think this is also fine. We bring out those. We can go for the will to bring out something else. Like, it really doesn't matter here. We're just winning the game. And yeah, they're just going to go to game 2. So we didn't even need the wills there. And it shows how powerful the deck can be if it's able to assemble its OTK. It's just like lights out for the opponent really a lot of the time. It also shows why Cyberjar is in this deck, because it can just be so crazy if it actually does go off. This hand is like not the best. Well, now it's really not the best because they got a Comfy here. They're going to rip out our Panda, which is quite unfortunate. But we do have some stalling tactics here. We draw into a Radiant. We're going to think about exactly what to do here. We go for the Heavy because I'm like, if that is Threatening Roar, which I feel like it probably is something like that, then I want to bait it out now rather than a turn that I'm getting on the aggressive here. It's just going to be the Threatening Roar indeed, so I'm glad I went for that. We're going to go for a Swords. Let them flip up that Merchant. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have just gone like Level Limit instead and left them with the set. I don't know. That could definitely be an option, but I'm going to set the Radiant here because they can't get through this. And they can go for Exile, but I'm fine losing that Radiant that way. This is also setting up for our Avarice. We got 2 monsters in graveyard already. We draw into a Reload here. We're just going to set the Reload, pass back to them. I don't really feel the need to fire the Reload yet, because I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. But we're going to go for Reload here and shuffle back everything. I'm not sure necessarily why I did this. I think I was just getting a bit too impatient. I think what I should have done is just waited the last turn for Swords to go through and then gone for Reload if I still didn't have the OTK by that point. But with that set, I'm like, it probably is a Torrential, but if it is like a Threatening or something, I don't want to have to worry about that. We do draw into a way to stop that, but we also don't draw our stall tool, which we really want. So, you know, our sword is expiring next turn. All we've got is a Radiant here. We do have Decree to stop their traps, which is pretty good, but I still don't think it's necessarily worth it. We go for the Comfy here, see what they've got. They've got a Pre-Mat, so sending the Cyber Dragon is kind of useless here. But they can do like the Cyber Dragon plus meta play into Balter. Pre-Mat can also bring back Demok, which I really don't want them to have. So I think I'm just going to take the Pre-Mat because Pre-Mat plus Demok is just so good. So yeah, I'm just going to set this Decree, pass back to them. And yeah, they're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw the level limit though. So we're just that good. You know, it's just that good. We fire the level limit. They can't hit over this stuff. We set the Morphing Jar here, pass back to them. They're going to go for Snatch on our Radiant here, tribute that for a Zaborg, so they are able to pop our Morphing Jar with the 2 cards that we did not know about. We know the hand exactly now. We know the hand's return Sidra meta. But just kind of unfortunate that it turned out that way there. We got Cat, though, so Cat can do stuff. We also do have this Decree set to stop the Torrential, so I feel pretty good about that. I think in order just to deck thin a little bit, I am just going to go for the Cat play now. I could have waited for the last will as well. But I don't want them to, you know, do like the meta on the Zaborg to bring out Dark Balter, because that'd be really bad for us. So I'd rather just go for this and just clear away that Zaborg, turn on my Avarices if I draw them later, and also deck thin away so I'm not drawing like Radiance or things like that. So we do lose our monsters at the end of the turn, but I still feel fine about this. They go for a Breaker here, and they're going to pop the level limit. Okay, that's fine by me. I mean, I'd like a way to stop that. Knock is not a way to stop that. I brought this in because I figured that they were on a bunch of flips, you know, like Merchant and things like that. So I figured that Knock would be pretty good here. But unfortunately, we just have to set that. And they're going to switch the Breaker to attack in for 1600. We will take that. They'll pass back to us. We draw Trunade. That's not going to do anything here. We're just going to pass back to them. And they're going to attack in for another 16. So that's going to go through. They will set 1, pass back to us. Now we can use the Knock, which I feel pretty good about. We're going to go for the Knock on the set. That will hit a Koichi, which does turn on the return. But I do have the Decree for the return. So I'm feeling fine about that. We set the Sangan, set the Trunade as a bluff, pass back to them. I fear they won't want to use their Torrential on this. Or not Torrential, Heavy Storm while they've got Torrential. They go for Dark here, though, and I'm very, very happy about that because then we get our Sangan Search, so I feel pretty good about that. We get the Cat to hand because I figure we can go for a big play here with Cat potentially, and if we can't, then at least deck thins for us. We don't really have too many good targets left for Cat in deck. I mean, we just have, like, we have Wombats and Pandas, so I guess, like, we can bring out some of those. But I figure just getting those out of deck and feeling their averses later can be pretty good. We draw a big march of animals, so that would be pretty good, but unfortunately it doesn't kill them. Even if we go Rescue Cat for, like, double Wombat and then go for March of the Animals that doesn't kill, that just drops them down by 4,000. Maybe I should have done that anyways because that would be a very sort of low life point total, but yeah, I decided not to there. They go for our Decree with that MST, and that's going to be very rough for us. We set the Snatch because I figure that, you know, if they've got removal, it will probably be dealt with that. And again, I don't think they're going to use heavy on their Torrential. But I think this was a bit of a mistake because, you know, if they do set up a board, we want the Snatch online. So a bit greedy on my part. They do go for the heavy here, though. And that's going to be rough. They tribute out the Cyber Dragon attack in for 21. And this probably should be the end of the game, no matter what we do here. They go for meta on the Sidra for a Balter. And I really would have liked the Snatch here because I do think that with Snatch, so if we go Snatch on Balter, we know about returns. They can bring out return, you know, bring out those Decoichis block here. But at least we're getting in and threatening lethal, I believe, because we go Cat. Yeah, Cat plus Balter should be threatening lethal. We do know about Torrential, so they could just, like, TT the Cat and then get, well, yeah, so they do have Torrential, so what we'd have to do is just attack him with Balter here and just, you know, sit on the Balter, but it still would have been something. So, yeah, I think losing the Snatch that way was definitely a misplay on my part. But, yeah, I wanted the bluff. And unfortunately, you know, they called the bluff, went for the heavy, and now we do indeed lose the game here. No matter what we do, because they got return, because they got Torrential, we're just losing this game. So we go for the Cat. We bring out a Wombat and a Panda here. We can crash the Wombat and then attack in with the Panda. So that's something. But, like, you know, again, we're losing these monsters at the end of the turn, and so it won't actually matter here. Actually, we do, the TT is gone, so actually one of those backers is unknown, so it might not have been something that stopped the Cat play, but I mean, Call would have stopped the Cat play because they would have brought back the Demock there, and yeah, then our Cat play would have died, and so we would have lost this either way at this point, but I do think I made a misplay with the Snatch for sure. They're just going to copy that last card in hand in case it's Karibo, but even if it is Karibo, it doesn't matter with that board, so yeah, they're just going to attack in for 28, and that will be the end of the game. So unfortunately, we weren't able to win this one. Again, I think there were some misplays I made in game 1 and game 3 that maybe cost me the game there. I think if I'd played it differently, then we could have potentially won this one, especially this game 3 here. But, you know, you live and learn, and this deck is very tricky to play. I think in the second game that I've got for you, though, I do get a little bit better with the deck. So let's dive into that now. Okay, our next game is against Soul65, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving in to the rock, paper, scissors, and we are going first, so I'm very glad we won that one. And this is a pretty good hand, all things considered. We've got level limit to sort of prevent them from going for an aggressive push. We've got Rescue Cat, Wombat, Big March of Animals. We set the Panda because I want that on field for when we go for the Rescue Cat to go into multiple Radiant. If they have a monster in defense mode on their side of the field, then we can go in for a potential lethal push. Or probably not lethal push, but we can get in for a lot of damage with Big March of the Animals. Plus the Rescue Cat bringing out double Radiant. The double Radiant would buff this thing up to 1800 base, and then if they get a monster that's 2300 base, plus 600 for the March of Animals on that. So that's looking like a fairly good chunk of damage. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. They're going to think about this, and they go for a Terraforming. That's fine. They get Necro Valley, which our deck doesn't really care about Necro Valley, so I'm happy about that. They go for Upstart here, drawing one. They go for Necro Valley, set a bunch, and go for Card Destruction. Oh, that's rough. I really liked that hand too. That's really rough. Seems like they're on Dark World Gravekeeper combo. So they pitch those brows, so that means that they're drawing 4 cards here instead of 2. But okay, our hand is still all right. It's just a bit awkward because we don't have a way to trigger Will, but maybe we'll draw into that. And even if we don't, we can sort of like play it safe and, you know, spend a couple turns setting up our OTK. They go for Dark World Lightning here, and they pitch a monster, pop our Panda, bring out the gold in defense mode. And yeah, things are going from bad to worse. We do have this Wombat here to hit in to their... Oh my goodness, they've got Dust Shoot too? Oh, that is just so rough. They're going to send back our Wombat here. We don't have anything for this. And yeah, we're just going to pass back to them because, I mean, what do we do against this, you know? We draw Premat, which is pretty good. We go for True Nade here. They go for Mind Crush. So now they can get rid of our wills, which is going to be very unfortunate. Maybe I should have activated will beforehand, just, to play around Mindcrush. Because Mindcrush is a card that Dark Worlds can play. I mean, they play Drag Down to the Grave. If they're playing, I mean, if they get it wrong, they get a discard, so that way they can bring back their stuff. So it makes sense that Minecraft is here. So maybe I should have gone for Last Will before this, because if I did go for Last Will before this, then I could have gone pre-mat on the cat, and then gone for big plays there. But I didn't do that, and so we get a bit punished for this. That Minecraft is going to take a lot of cards out of our hand. And yeah, I mean, I think we still have to go for a pre-mat here and bring back something. I'm going to bring back the cat just to deck then a bit too. So I'm going to go for the cat, bring out a panda, and bring out a radiant here. This will allow us to hit over the gold and get in for a little bit of damage. It's just chip damage, but it can't hurt. So we're going to get in for 400 plus 800. And now main two, we're just going to activate this level limit, pass back to them. So they are going to bring out a Treeborn Frog and just attack in. We are perfectly fine taking those pokes because the 100 damage is probably not going to matter in the end. We draw these swords, no need to commit that plus the level limit here because, if they've got a way to clear level limit, they probably have a way to get through swords. And I'm not really too afraid of this deck OTKing us. Sure, they can get out a bunch of Dark Worlds on field, but they've gone through card destruction, which is their main way of doing that. So I feel pretty okay about this. We draw Morphing Jar. No way we're setting that against Dark World. No way. So we're attacking just into the Treeborn Frog, dealing a bit of chip damage. If they've got Book, then that's really bad for us. But I don't know. Can they afford to fit Book in this deck? I'm not really sure. And I'm fine just getting aggressive here. We can bring out this Lily that we drew, get in over the Treeborn, get indirect with the Lily, and deal 3,400. So now they're at 2,800. We're threatening lethal next turn. They're going to choose not to bring back the Treeborn here. Instead going for a Royal Tribute, it looks like. But there's some confusion about whether, they discard for hand size or not. Okay, they're going to go for Dark Hole, which makes sense why they didn't go for Treeborn there. We draw Exiled Force, doesn't really do anything here. I think I should set the Exiled Force, but I don't want them to Dark World Lightning us again. So I keep it in hand. I'm trying to play around like Dust Shoot by setting it, but yeah, I don't know. I think if they Dust Shoot this, I'm fine with it, so that's why I keep it in hand. Yeah, but they're going to think about whether to bring this back in the standby. They are indeed going to do that. And now they're going to think about what they want to do here. They're going to go for Necro Valley, set 2, and activate Drag Down here. They're going to take the swords to prevent us from stalling them a bit more. And they're going to pitch a Necro, or we pitch a Necro from their hand because we saw that they had double Royal Tribute plus Necro Valley. So I figured might as well take the thing that, is not the duplicate to give them a duplicate of a card in hand. They go for Royal Tribute here, and they pitch gold. Yeah, so there's the other Royal Tribute that I mentioned there. They're going to bring back the gold, and now they're just going to attack in for 100 here with the Treeborn. So we did lose our Exiled Force, which was a bit unfortunate, but that Panda is actually a perfect draw here. We can go for a heavy, wipe the entire board away, go for this Panda, go for the United We Stand. The Panda will gain 1,500 from their monster, so it's at 23, and then plus an additional 8 from United We Stand. Attacking over the Treeborn Frog will be lethal damage here. So yeah, we were able to win that one. Despite how down bad we were in the beginning, which I think is more of a sign to Dark World's not being that good than a sign that this deck is really good. But I do think this deck is really good as well. I think the two are not mutually exclusive. It's just against a combo deck, this is where a deck like Dark Worlds would shine if they're playing Mind Crush, they're playing Dust Shoot, they're playing all these things to disrupt our combo. So we do definitely have the worst matchup here. But I do think that we're in a pretty good spot. And we draw a Rescue Cat, which is really good. We're going to go for Rescue Cat here. They're going to go for Mind Crush, call Last Will. We don't have a Last Will, but they do get to pitch a gold here. So, that will get a monster on field. We're going to bring out a Panda and a Radiant. Now, I could go for a huge play here with Stein or doing things like that. But I'm fine just going for the pre-mat on the cat and then going for that. Going for another Panda and another Radiant. I could also go for Reload here, shuffling back these two into the deck and then trying to draw into a March of Animals or a United We Stand to guaranteed kill them here. But I feel like one of those back row has to be a Threatening Roar or something like that because generally you do side those in when playing these sorts of decks. So I figured I don't want to play with fire, and so I'll just go in with this and it should hopefully be good enough. So I just go in, I attack over the gold, that'll be 14. This Panda drops down to 23, so this will be 1,900 into this. And then I can get in for 2,600 here. And I think this is ultimately fine. It's a fine amount of damage to do. We don't potentially waste a Big March or United We Stand on this because all these things are going to grave at the end of the turn. We have a Death's Wombat in hand to bring out to just keep the aggressive pressure going if we want to. So I feel pretty good about this hand overall. I'm going to go for True Nade, then go for a card D. Pigeon our entire hand there. We draw 4. I mean, that's not a terrible hand. We do have enough engrave for Avarice, but if they've got Necro Valley, it's annoying. We do have this Heavy Storm for the Necro Valley, though. So that's pretty good. They are going to go for a drag down here, so they will be able to pitch something good. They're going to pitch the Avarice, because it seems like they don't have the Necro Valley. We draw into a Radiant, though. That's not bad. We draw Sangan, though. That's even better than Radiant. So we'll bring out the Sangan, attack in for 1,000. And we will just pass back to them. No need to set anything here. If they Dust Shoot us, I'm perfectly fine with that. So I feel like this is, ultimately not a bad position to be in. They're going to set one, pass back to us. No Dust Shoot looks like. We're just going to go for the heavy on the back row. It's Dark Deal, so they will be able to use this to bring out a monster here. And it is a Silva, so they will get the additional effect of us putting 2 additional cards at the bottom of our deck. But luckily for us, it won't really matter in this position because we can just put back things that are not Will. And then we can go for a big push here by activating Will, attacking into the Silva, and that should be the end of the game. I mean, if they brought back Silva in defense, it would be a bit awkward for us because we wouldn't be able to pull this off this turn. But I think we still would have been in a really good spot overall. Like, I don't really see how we lose this game over time. The moment the Sangan dies, we just win the game. We can either search out a Lily, or we can go for something else that can allow us to push for lethal. They've got 100 life points left, so there are many, many things in our deck that do that. So I think that we were winning this one either way, even if they did bring the Silva in defense. But that's going to do it for this game. I think that this does show how good this deck can be against rogue decks, even rogue decks that sort of hard counter it. So I do think that's a good sign for any deck that you want to have be competitive. But I do think that game 1 does show, or match 1 that is, does show that this deck does have some flaws. Occasionally you can draw awkwardly. And if you're not a very, very skilled player in the deck, then you can have a tough time maneuvering out of that, like I did myself. But I do think that game 2 also can show how explosive the deck can be when it actually does pull off the combo. Game 2 of match 1, that is. So I do think this deck is very, very good. I think it is one of the best OTK decks in the format, up there with Stein Monarch and things like that. And the fact that you don't have to sort of play the life point game of keeping your life points above 5,000 at all times is a major point in this deck's favor. But what do you all think of the deck? Do you think that it's worse than I'm making it out to be, or do you think that it's much better than I made it out to be? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to discussing with you as always. Also, if you like this sort of content and want to see more Reaper content coming down the pipeline, definitely subscribe to the channel so that way you'll be notified when that content does come out. I plan on releasing a lot more videos of this and also holding some tournaments for it as well. If you want to join those tournaments, definitely head on over to the YGO from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below. It's a great place to find games in this format and any other format that I've covered on the channel. Also, if you want to support me directly, I do have a Patreon linked in the description as well. And if you join the Patreon and get shout out in these videos, so big shout outs to Tyler Compton, GMYFS, Dumptruck, Porkchop Coon, Brendocker, and Rinchman. It really means a lot that you all support me this way and encourage me to make more videos like this in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video as always, and until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.